What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the Foreigner Podcast, the podcast where I, your host, Andre Günther, talk about pretty much anything related to being an exchange student, living abroad in a different culture, being a host family, or anything like that. Just the pluralism of cultures and the intercultural competences that we learn every day. And today, I welcome you to another episode, which, as you can read from the title, is gonna be quite interesting. A German explains America. Yeah, so what does that mean? Since I'm a German and I lived in America for 1 year, the my ability to talk about the American culture is limited, though bigger than the competence of lots of other Germans. But still, I thought it might be quite interesting if I, as a German who just experienced the US and the American culture from one state, just from Minnesota for 1 year, if I try to explain it a little bit. So before I dive into that, I would really love if you could just leave a like on my website or on my YouTube, or leave me a positive review on iTunes, because that helps me grow. And maybe I can do more of these kind of things. So if you find it really interesting and want me to explain more things about America from my German standpoint, then leave me a message there, leave me a like, so that I can maybe turn this into a series. But yeah, I don't want to nag anymore about all the advertising stuff. I do that every episode. I think if you've listened to more of my shows, you might know by now what all of that is about. So yeah, I want to just jump right in. The structure of today is going to be a German explains America, and then I'm going to, of course, give you an item of the episode and a quote of the episode. So, what are the things that I want to be talking about today in this episode? What are the things that I, as a German, want to explain other people in the world about America, maybe even Americans? So, I want to talk about the two major sports which I had to deal with, being football and baseball, because I experienced that lots of Germans don't know the rules of any of that sport, and they just see, oh, there's people hitting each other. That's pretty violent, and they don't understand it. So I think that explaining that would be a pretty cool thing. Then I want to talk about two major holidays, being Black Friday and Thanksgiving, which also Germans usually don't understand. Then a thing that Germans might be able to relate to, barbecue. What is the meaning of barbecue in the American culture? Then about a more political or philosophical thing, about the meaning of freedom and the political realms that lots of Americans are existing in and that they function in, because that's a thing that I found really interesting. Then, oh my god, this is a thing where some people are gonna hate me for. I'm gonna talk about memes in the end, what memes are. You heard me talking about memes earlier in my podcast, but I just wanted to explain it to all the normies, and everyone who knows memes is gonna hate me for that. But that's okay. That's okay. Because, yeah, I was a normie as well, so why not make more normies to dank memers? But before I get into all of that slang, which I already kind of did, I want to get to the essential things. And just before I start, I just want to let you know that if I do explain anything wrong, and you as American or anyone who experienced American culture feel violated in your national identity or in your cultural identity, then send me an email at theforeignerpodcast@gmail.com. Tell me where I'm wrong, and in one of my next episodes, I will correct myself. Yeah, so thank you very much for listening to this episode, and I'd say we jump right in. So, as I said, at first, I want to explain what football is. So, football, American football, because Germans will, um, or pretty much anyone in the world except for Americans, see football as what Americans call soccer. So, having a round ball that you kick with your foot into the other team's goal. But that's not what American football is. Nope. Americans have it special. So American football is a sport that is, as lots of typical American sports, round based. So there's a playing field which is a rectangle. It's 100 yards long, and I'm not quite sure. I think 50 yards broad, but I'm not quite sure. So if the measures are wrong, then please tell me, leave a comment, send me an email, I'll correct that. And on each side, there is there after those 100 yards, there's a zone where there's usually the logo of the team, and that's the end zone. And behind the end zone, there's like a fork thingy sticking up in the air. It's just one pole that goes up, and then it separates into um, a pole that is 90 degrees on it. So that's forming a 90-degree angle. And on the sides of that, there's again two poles going up in the air. So it's kind of like a two-tip fork, if that's a word. And that's the field goal, or well, that's the goal. And so how can you score? A team can score if it gets the football, which is kind of egg-shaped, in the end zone, or kicks it through the field goal or the goal. And if you kick it through the goal, then that's a field goal. Now, the points. If just any player gets the ball and himself into the end zone, so the ball needs to be in the end zone, or the 2 feet of the player need to be in the end zone, and then it's a touchdown. So a touchdown gives you 6 points. If you manage to kick the ball through the field goal, and you score a field goal, that's 3 points. But after each touchdown, you get a chance to either kick through the goal and get 1 extra point, or manage to get a player in the end zone a second time and get 2 points. So the maximum points you can score in one drive, what that is, I'll be coming to later, is 8 points by getting a touchdown and then getting the ball in the end zone again. That's the 2 extra points. So that will be 6 for the touchdown and 2 extra points for getting into the end zone again. Now, I just said drive. What is that? So the game is turn-based. One team is in the offense, one team is in the defense. When you're in the offense, you have a drive. So you start somewhere on the field, and you have to get your ball moving. You have to get the football moving to the other sides, to the other team's end zone. How do you do that? So either you throw it or you run it. So you can only throw it forward once in the entire game, but you can throw it backwards as often as you want. So you can. So the quarterback usually gets the ball. He has a group of big, heavy dudes trying to protect him from the defense who try to sack him. That is, get the quarterback to fall down, and he can either hand the ball to someone who has to run through or around the other people trying to protect him, and especially the defending team trying to get him down, and he has to run down the field. Whenever the ball moves 10 yards from the point where the first ball was tossed, where this drive started, I say, whenever he moves 10 yards and longer, he has a first down. So what does that mean? You only have 4 attempts to get the ball 10 yards down. If you don't manage to do that, then you lose your drive, you lose the offense, and you're now defense. So the defense's task is to not have the offense, the drive of the opposing team, manage to get 10 yards. So many numbers. So how can they do that? They can either intercept throws. So if the quarterback of the offense team throws the ball, they can catch it. And if they catch and secure the ball, it's now theirs. The drive of the opposing team is over. Then the defending team is now offense and can immediately run forward. So they can immediately start making progress. And wherever they get down, their drive starts. They can also sack the quarterback, which is get the quarterback to fall down. They can cause a fumble, which would mean the quarterback throws or tries to hand the ball but loses it, it falls on the ground, and then whichever team gets their hand on it first, like secures it first, that team now gets the drive. So an offense can regain their drive, and a defense can intercept with a fumble. Then they can, of course, just tackle the runners so often that they don't manage it to get past those 10 yards. And so their 4 attempts on passing those 10 yards and getting a first down are used. They did manage it, so the drive changes. And then, of course, they can block the throw with the quarterback through. They can block the receiver who has to catch the ball, and they have to get him away from catching the ball, so the ball just hits the ground if they can't catch it, and then that's just a failed throw attempt. If that happens 4 times, then again, the drive is over. So that's pretty much it. And if someone that is defense gets both hands on someone with the ball, they're tagged and their run is over. And wherever if they make it past the 10 yards, wherever they get tagged, they fall down or they step out of bounds, they step outside of the play field, that's where their new 10 yards area starts. So they made a first down. So let's calculate through it. Imagine you start a drive, you are on the 50 yard, that's exactly in the middle, and you have to run it down 10 yards. So you'd have to run to the 40 yards marker of the enemy team. Then, your first attempt, the quarterback tries to throw it, he throws it, the ball is in the air, but the receiver can't catch it. It falls on the ground, so that's an incomplete pass. Okay, you didn't gain anything, so your second attempt is again from the 50-yard line. Now you try to run it. So the quarterback gets out of the pocket, which is the defensive line that his defense team builds around him, and he manages to give a running back, which is one of the people who take the ball and run around. He hands it to a running back, and he starts running. But after, let's say, 3 yards, he immediately gets tackled and falls down. So the team just gained 3 yards. So now they don't have to get 10 yards anymore. Now they only have to make 7 yards because they still have to go to the 40-yard line, but they are now at the 47. So again, they try to throw it, but before the quarterback spots anyone who is able to catch the ball, he gets sacked, so he gets tackled by anyone of the defense. But in trying to find someone, he took steps backwards, and let's say he moved 5 yards backwards, and then he gets tackled there. They now have lost 5 yards. So now they don't have to, in their fourth and final attempt, they don't have to get 10 yards, but they only have to get 12, because at first they gained 3, but then they lost 5, which makes a total loss of 2. Now in their fourth attempt, what happens if they again don't manage to make a first down? Then wherever they started is the starting point for the enemy's offense. So if they don't make it, then the enemy's or the opposing team's drive will start at the 48 of the team that was just the offense, which is particularly bad. So they can either decide to go for a field goal attempt, but for 52 yards, that's pretty unlikely that the punter, the kicker, is going to make it. So they can just punt it away, which means they just kick it downfield, and wherever the defending team catches the ball and they start running, wherever they get downed, it is the point that their drive will start. And then it's just the whole game going in the different direction. So yeah, that's how it's turn-based. You see, it's not like soccer that just keeps going and going and going, and there's no stopping except there happened a foul. But whenever someone gets tackled, the ball gets out. It's a short break of like 10-15 seconds for everyone to get rearranged. If any team tries to make a different play, they try a different tactic than they just tried, they can get new players onto the field and get players off. So a team doesn't consist of like 20 people, but it can consist of over 100 people. And depending on what tactic they want to play, they can bring different people on. If they want to sack, they will bring more people in the defensive line near the enemies. If they try to get a good space coverage, they will have that line trying to get to the quarterback pretty thin, but will have lots of people in the backfield trying to catch throws and stuff like that. So there are a lot of strategic plays that you can make and strategic decisions that are to be made. Okay, now that was the long thing. Now let's get to baseball. So baseball is also pretty difficult to understand, and those games are long and turn-based as well. So there's always a hitting team and a catching team. So the hitting team has one dude with a bat standing in a corner and one dude standing away from him, but that's one from the opposing team, I'm sorry, and he throws him a ball. He has to throw through an imaginary window, and if he throws the ball through that imaginary window, the guy with the bat has to hit it. If he does hit it, he's now allowed to run. And in a rectangle, there are 3 bases that he has to run at. So one to his right, one straight ahead, and one to the left, and then himself, that's the 4th. So first he runs to the first base, which is to his right. If the ball is still in the air, he can try to run for the second base, but that's usually not happening. Usually they only run one, and then to the third, and then to the 4th. So depending on how he hits it, he can run further. And outside on the field, there's players from the opposing team which try to catch the ball. When they do so, then the guy who just hit the ball with the bat has to be standing on a base. If he's still running, then he's out of the game. So if he started running and is now standing at the base, of course, there's no one who has a bat. So the team that just had the batter gets someone else out. And now if he hits the ball as well, both of them can run. So you score if one of the players who had a bat makes it once around all those 4 bases. That's 1 point. If the ball flies through the imaginary window, so the ball is thrown by someone that is just in the throwing spot, it goes through the window, but the one with the bat doesn't manage to hit it 4 times, then he's out, and he has to go back in line and wait for his turn to again try to bat. But also if the thrower throws next to the window 4 times, so he doesn't throw through the imaginatory window, then he's out, and the team has to get out a new batter, a new thrower. And so those sides mix as well after 15 minutes each, and by the end, the team that has more points wins. I didn't like baseball as much because it's sometimes really boring if neither of the team hits, and it's just a lot of standing around and people throwing balls at each other but not hitting it with a bat. So if you want a further description of that, then yeah, send me an email, leave a comment or whatever, and I will deliver that as well. But that should be it to the games now. If you still have any questions, my email is theforeignerpodcast@gmail.com. I will either answer yours directly or feature the answer in another episode. Now, let's get to the holidays. What is Black Friday and what is Thanksgiving? Well, first I want to start with Thanksgiving because of chronological order. So Thanksgiving happens on the 4th Thursday every November. And what it celebrates is not really known. Nobody knows when the first Thanksgiving was, but it's to thank God for giving all the crops and plants that are growing and for giving all the food to the people. Nobody knows when the first Thanksgiving occurred, but the ancient saying, I think, is that the founding fathers celebrated together with the Native Americans when they gave them when the Native Americans gave them food in order to survive the winter because nothing grew. So they celebrated making their first year, surviving their first year with a giant feast they had together with the Native Americans. So that's the origin. And now today, it's just a festival, I'd say, for the entire family. So the family gathers from all around the country or world if they can. So lots of people fly home in order to be with their family and celebrate this, um, yeah, this day. And what they do is they eat. They eat a lot. Usually that's dinner, but it can be just eating all day. I mean, when we did Thanksgiving, yeah, we pretty much spend all the day eating, watching football. There's always football games on Thanksgiving, a lot of them, so you can watch football the entire day and be with your family, drink, eat, catch up on your lives, talk with each other, do some family bonding or whatever. Go out on a walk. Well, that's not typically American, but some people do that in America as well. So, yeah, that's what Thanksgiving is. And now, what is Black Friday? So, Black Friday is the day after Thanksgiving, and this day usually starts the Christmas sale. So all the shops then will have their new Christmas offers and Christmas sales. So lots of people use that day after Thanksgiving because usually it's still free of work to go to the stores and go shopping. And the store owners knew that, so they, in order to attract more customers, started making bigger and bigger sales and giving more and more percentages in order to lure people um, into their shops and get them to buy stuff. So there are always doorbuster sales, which are ridiculously high sales. So like 70% off TVs and computers and whatever. So things that are really cheap and that are meant to attract lots of customers. And they're called doorbusters because sometimes people will wait through the entire night. They will camp in front of stores just to be the first in line in order as soon as the gates of the shop open, run in, get one of their, of course, very limited sale offer articles and buy it before anyone else can steal it from them. So that's why they're called doorbusters. And that's a pretty big thing in America. So where does the name Black Friday come from? Well, also, nobody knows. I found three explanations online. First of them is being that there are just so many people in the street that the streets just look like a black mass because lots of people were wearing black coats back in the days, and that's where it should originate from, that the whole street and the whole shop just looks like a black mass because lots of people wearing black stuff, because that's what people wore back then, are flooding the streets and chaotically moving around trying to get stuff. The second theme, no, the second idea how it could have gotten its name is that um, it was a possibility that Black Friday, because so many people were out on the streets, for um, shop owners to make a profit and to write black numbers, because red numbers is deficit, black numbers is profit. And the third one would kind of hit in that same spot. So it says that the shop owners got black fingers from counting all of the money they made on a Black Friday. So, yeah, those are the three biggest myths or ideas of how the name Black Friday emerged. Yeah, so that's that. If you have any more questions on that, if you have any further explanations or whatever, then also hit me up right in the comments. My email is still theforeignerpodcast@gmail.com. Everything small. Now let's get to a typically American thing, barbecue. So barbecue is the master form of grilling, where usually in grills, yeah, big grills on low temperatures like 120 degrees Celsius, the meat is slowly cooked and slowly made ready to eat. So it's usually a lot and a lot of meat, and also a family event. Like the Americans love to grill and to make a barbecue and have lots of people over. They have great sauces that complement the food, and it's yes, just slowly cooked, slowly grilled, and really good. It tastes really good. And that's also such a thing that Americans are very proud of. They like their barbecue and they like their eating. As I said, there's a lot of eating on there. Thanksgiving, you eat a lot. Barbecue, you eat a lot. So, yeah, that's also a thing that many Americans can really relate to, and lots of other people in the world can't. In Germany, there's the grilling culture as well, but it's not as big as barbecues in the US, especially in the South. They love their barbecue. Now, let's get to the political kind of thing or philosophical thing. What I learned in the US is that freedom is the most important thing. Lots of people, the liberals and the conservatives, they love freedom and they think freedom is the most important thing. That's kind of the value that the American country was founded on, of people being free, not being taxed by the crown, not being forced into doing anything. They want to be free and have their own rights and um, their own personal choices about their lives. And that's the thing which is really good because freedom is awesome, but also it can be really bad because that freedom can often, I saw at least often referred to as, I have the right to be here, I have the right to say something, and if I want to be racist, then that's my right, which, I mean, yeah, technically, but you're still being an asshole if you're racist. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said that. But yeah, freedom is also often taken as an excuse to just not behave well because apparently it's your right. But I mean, technically it is your right, but also you're just being rude to other people. So the political spectrum in the US is pretty much separated into conservatives and liberals, which I mean, on some parts even agree. So the Americans don't have like the spectrum of right and left, which I think more European countries have. They have conservative and liberal. Left is pretty much non-existent. I mean, there are social democrats who are slightly left, like Bernie Sanders, but we saw how that worked out. So liberal just meaning is like the epitome of freedom. Liberals want freedom of everything. No government control, no nothing. Liberals just want free markets, free people, free everything. And then the conservatives who want Christianity and how it's always been done, it shall, the world shall be run like it has always been run. Like they don't like change. They think that new things are evil, and they want, just they want they want it to stay the same. They want to have white supremacy because whites have always been superior, and just crazy stuff like that. But we're getting into that political stuff again. I don't want to talk about that no more. I already had an episode on that. Don't quote me on that, please. So yeah, freedom is an essential value for lots of the Americans. So they don't really want that much government control, neither the conservatives nor the liberals. They are not very authoritarian, even though they love their military and they love their police because they have to they have to make law and order for everyone who is against freedom, which is kind of, I mean, I don't really understand it, since on one hand they want freedom and on the other hand they want law and order, which is kind of contradicting each other. But who am I to judge? Let's move on. The last thing that I want to be talking about is memes. So, what are memes? Now, that's really difficult to explain, and I already kind of did an episode on that, or at least talked about it in an episode. So, memes are generally ideas, like most of the time videos, sayings, or pictures that usually are that give you a sense of community, as of you know something that other people, the normies, don't. And that's what makes memes funny. People being in on the joke. Memes are practically inside jokes, which only selected people who know about memes get. And as soon as the whole world knows about a meme, it's not funny anymore. So that's what like the dab was. Everyone now is dabbing, and dabbing is mostly frowned upon, but it started as a meme. And people would do that silly movement, throwing their elbow at their heads because it was funny, and only some people got it, and the other people were just wondering why someone would just throw their head in their elbow. But for the people who knew what it was about, it was funny. So that's a meme. And Americans, for some reason, especially American teens and um, younger children, really love that sense of being special and being, yeah, just being different from others because they get the joke. But as soon as like the older generations get the meme, it's not funny anymore and they move on. So there are memes that can live for several months, like Harambe or the dab, and there can also be memes that only live for like a week, such as the skedaddle skedoodle meme or whatever. So yeah, that's basically a meme. If you have any questions on that, send me an email, but I'll probably just reply to it in an email because I don't want to get killed by more dank memers. So yeah, if you're a normie, now you're not anymore. You're welcome. And now let's move on to the item and the quote of the episode. So the item is a book, The Oxford Guide to British and American Culture for Learners of English. So that is more of a neutral and educated viewpoint on the cultures of Britain and America, and a bit in comparison. And it's, as I said, more educated than I could deliver. So if you are interested in what I was talking about and want to know more and more uh, funded? No, more things that rely on a more scientific foundation about the British and American culture, then definitely go check out that book. And now there's a quote. The quote is from, oh my god, Visvaldis Wilks, who is just some random dude. I googled this name and I didn't find anyone. So yeah, it's just any dude. And the quote says, "What starts with two number nines and ends with a large soda? A meme." Now, if you're not a normie, you know what that means. If you're a normie, well, get to know your memes. That's all I want to say about the meme thing, since I don't want to explain any more memes, because this episode probably already caused a lot of hatred towards me. So, thank you very much for listening to this episode. I still would really appreciate it if you could show me that you liked this episode with a positive review on iTunes. Send me an email with any of your questions, comment on my website, and yeah, please subscribe to me on iTunes because that's how the algorithm of iTunes knows that people actually care about my product, my podcast, and it will recommend it to more people who are interested in the same things that you are and that I am, that want to learn more about different cultures and being an exchange student. So I hope this kind of untypical episode helped you a little bit to learn more. Check out my website and goodbye. Thank you very much.